Ferrari haven't delivered on the potential they've shown this season. After ending 2024 in the fight for a Constructors' Championship title, they were expected to hit the ground running this season, but instead, they've been well off the pace of the McLaren pair. Lewis Hamilton has less than half the points of Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris, and Charles Leclerc is only faring slightly better. They might be second in the Constructors' standings, but any hopes of a first title since 2008 are well and truly finished. That doesn't mean Ferrari are giving up on this season though. At the Belgian Grand Prix later this month, they will finally have a massive upgrade, which could completely change the competitive order this season. Today, I'll check out the final throw of the dice from Ferrari and talk about why Lewis Hamilton is demanding Ferrari do better next season and how he thinks he can help them. So don't go anywhere. Although F1's technical regulations for 2025 remain mostly the same as last season, and this is the last year of these regulations, Ferrari decided they wanted to make some massive changes to their car. It was a big surprise to many in Formula 1, considering how strongly they finished 2024. But if they thought they'd got the most out of the car they had, then it had to have been the right decision, even if it hasn't always looked like it on track this year. Ferrari have made significant changes to their car by switching from push to pull rod front suspension in order to open up more avenues for aerodynamic development. The team even released a statement at the start of the season explaining the decision. The thinking behind this change in architecture was to clean up the airflow around the car, while also giving greater scope for further aero development, which had pretty much been exhausted with the previous iteration. The car is an evolution from every aspect when compared to last year's, which provided a good starting point. It was designed with the aim of maximizing the development potential of the car in a season when, thanks to the long stability of the regulations now in their final year, one can expect the field to be extremely evenly matched, with just thousandths of a second in lap time making the difference. Well, they were right about one thing: the competition is extremely evenly matched, and Ferrari have been the losers in that so far. Team boss Frédéric Vasseur made it clear that they were starting the year with the aim of winning both titles. But despite this overhauled car, the greater scope for aero development, and the arrival of Lewis Hamilton, Ferrari haven't delivered on anything so far. They have 4 podium finishes this season, all going to Charles Leclerc, but have never looked like potential race winners. Last time out in Silverstone, they were outthought and outdriven by the Sauber team and Nico Hülkenberg. However, things are looking up for Ferrari. Since the start of the season, there has been talk in Italy of a new rear suspension that could completely change their fortunes. Everyone has known it was coming, but delays and problems with the car have meant it has stayed in the factory far longer than the team would have wanted. Until now. At Mugello on Wednesday, Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc both got behind the wheel of the SF25 during a filming day when Ferrari ran its new rear suspension for the first time ahead of the Belgian Grand Prix. The Ferrari Formula 1 squad was making use of an allotted filming day at Mugello, essentially using the filming day as an extra practice session before the Belgian Grand Prix in a week's time. The new suspension follows the floor upgrades, which heralded improved performance at both the Red Bull Ring and Silverstone, with focus now set to shift to the 2026 rule set. There is still a slight change to the power steering to come, which at the moment doesn't provide the feel that the drivers want when going through high-speed corners. But in terms of serious performance-changing upgrades, this suspension is going to be it. It is the last throw of the dice for Ferrari, so no matter how close the upgrades bring them to McLaren, there won't be any heroic final push after the summer break. They can't afford to compromise next year's car doing that. The new suspension involves moving the front attachment point of the suspension's upper triangle down. Now, while this might seem like a fairly insignificant change, any movement of the attachment points can have a massive impact on how the car rides, which then also has a big impact on the effectiveness of the ground effect floor. To get the best out of the ground effect floor and to provide as a predictable and stable a platform as possible for the drivers, the aim is to keep the car as flat as possible at all times. The modification to the rear suspension became necessary after the findings from the first few races of an inability of the rear suspension in its original version to work with the front ends, which was overhauled for this season. If the new rear suspension works as intended, the benefits could be massive for the Scuderia. Ferrari has spent the whole season trying to find a balance between optimal ride height and a drivable car. In China, they got that balance horribly wrong and had both cars disqualified from the Grand Prix. Since then, they have had to play it safe to avoid that happening again. At some Grand Prix, this battle for balance has manifested itself in the drivers being told to lift and coast in high-speed sections to avoid the risk of grinding against bumps in the track. If the upgrades work, they will not only allow Ferrari to set up its car so it can run closer to the ground, where more downforce is produced, but they could help its drivers move away from extreme setups that they've been forced to adopt to overcome the car's weaknesses. So not only will the new suspension unlock more performance for the drivers, but it should allow them to use a more normal setup, improving their comfort and confidence in the car, and again, unlocking more lap time. Of course, all of this relies on the changes working, something that will become quickly evident at Spa. As I said earlier though, this is likely to be the end of the upgrades for this season as the team turns their attention to next season, something Hamilton is very excited about. The 7-time world champion has never been happy with the SF25, feeling it isn't designed in a way he would like. He is demanding that Ferrari take his design preferences seriously and build the new car around what he wants. Before I talk about that though, if you're enjoying the video and want to catch more news and analysis on this F1 season, or catch one of our deep dives into what's happening in the sport at the moment, like our recent video on what's going to happen at Red Bull now Horner is gone, then make sure to press the like button and subscribe to F1 Reverse. Thanks a lot. Hamilton has struggled in his debut campaign with Ferrari after joining from Mercedes and remains without a Grand Prix podium at the halfway point of the season. Hamilton has also been outperformed by his teammates so far, though the gap has looked much closer in recent races. Part of the problem for Hamilton has been that he simply isn't comfortable with how the current Ferrari car drives, while Charles Leclerc has been part of its development since the very start of these regulations. Speaking ahead of the British Grand Prix, Hamilton said, "Charles has been here for a long time and he's been a part of evolving and developing this car, and he's very accustomed to it. He's found one way which the car works. I've tried all the other directions that should work, but they just don't for whatever reasons. And I've slowly migrated to the place where Charles does run the car, and last week our pace was the closest it's been. It's still tough. It's a tough balance to drive and it's not a comfortable one. It's not one that I want to have in the future. So I'm working with Loic Serra and all the guys at the factory to make sure that the next car will have some of my DNA, and hopefully we'll be able to get some of the characteristics that I'm hoping to have in it next year." While Hamilton was at Mercedes, winning championships with ease, he had the luxury of getting to dictate how the car was developed. He could tell the engineers how he wanted the car to drive and they would go away and make it happen. With an engine that was significantly more powerful than anything else on the grid, and a budget of roughly $500 million a year, Mercedes had the freedom to experiment, refine, and create Hamilton's ideal cars. And it was a plan that worked as well. Hamilton's trophy cabinet is proof of that. But while Hamilton may have a preference for how his car drives, he doesn't have the luxury of being the out-and-out number one of Ferrari. Charles Leclerc will have his own preferences to how the car drives, and the Ferrari factory team will probably end up with the unenviable job of trying to find a middle ground for the two drivers. Ferrari fans will just have to hope that that middle ground doesn't compromise performance. Do you think Ferrari's new suspension is going to help them win a race this season? And will Hamilton get his way with next season's car? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and until next time, drive safe and bye for now.